Hello and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts, a Centers for Spiritual Living teaching center. I am Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson. I am the founder and the spiritual director. Now, as you are sitting there joining us, you may have questions, any number of questions, such as, who am I? How did I get here? Spiritually integrated arts means what exactly? What is a teaching center? Well, what is Centers for Spiritual Living? What is that? What does that even mean? Or New Thought, or religious science, or science of mind and spirit? You may have any number of questions about this specific community, about the parent organization, CSL, our philosophy, our teaching, our liberation theology. Any number of questions. Feel free to send an email. We look forward to connecting more and building our virtual community, our global community. And if you haven't connected yet on social media, feel free to do so. This is your invitation now. Also, did you know that all of our Sunday messages are archived on our YouTube channel? You can watch it anytime. Now, questions about anything, such as becoming a member. What does that mean? What does membership entail? And if you live somewhere far and already belong to a spiritual community, can you be a member of more than one? The simple answer is yes, you can. Just like you can shop at more than one grocery store, you can attend or be a member of more than one gym. We are building beloved community. So you can do both. You can be a member of both. You can be involved with both. That's what being in spiritual community means. So we welcome you. We invite you. We are so appreciative that you have found this community and that you have joined us today. We bless you. We love you. We welcome you. Live long and prosper. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of our Sunday message. Love you. Connect with you soon. Blessings. Hello and welcome as we continue our November theme conversation, the mundane, the sacred, and the profane. Oh my. And today we continue by talking about the sacred. Often the sacred is seen as something separate from everyday life. It is defined as being dedicated, once again, set aside, set apart from. It is deemed as being highly valued and of importance.
But what if we could approach the idea of the sacred, the energy of the sacred from a new perspective? What if instead of being seen as something reserved for certain places, certain times of year, certain events, certain specific practices, what if the sacred was found in all things all the time? What if? I mean, because ultimately it is all things. God is all there is. So, what would happen if we adjusted our mental equivalent, that our thoughts and beliefs and paradigms were in alignment with the sacred? That we knew the power of our words, and when we spoke the sacred. What if we understood that because we are the incarnations of the divine, our emotions and our feelings, all of them, sacred energy, and that because of all of this, when we engage in an activity, the sacred is there. Now, we're going to talk about, does that mean every activity is sacred? Nope. We're going to get there a little bit later. But for right now, we simply anchor into this awareness that our adventure is our ability to be open to the awareness, to be open to the idea that we can shift from a previous idea of a dogmatic idea of this time of year. Think about Christmas. Why is Christmas December 25th, according to the way we practice it in the United States? Why is Christmas December 25th when every biblical scholar that I have ever read or heard talk about Jesus, all of them agree there's no way he was born then? But we set aside, Christians set it aside as the sacred birth time of Jesus. So we are stepping into this. Let me just consider shifting my paradigms around what sacred is, what sacred means, where sacred can be found, simply so that I can begin to explore. And one of the things we're going to explore is sacred as connection. It is easy for us to see the sacred in certain specific practices, contemplative practices, such as meditation. That's easy. And there's a connection that is felt during these particular practices of deep reflection, deep inner work, to the degree where many people will say that it's almost palpable when they are in connection through meditation or yoga or certain other practices. Gotcha. And in these moments, the reality of our own divinity and connection to all that is, yes, it becomes heightened and highlighted. Yes. It is that feeling of connection that often leads us to categorizing and labeling and separating that activity as being sacred. That's where I felt it. I felt it when meditating. I didn't feel it when doing laundry. So clearly the meditation is sacred. Okay, I got you. But when we meditate, one of the things we do first is we come to the breath and we recognize that the breath is sacred. Isn't that the same breath when you're doing laundry? Isn't that the same breath when you're exercising and on the treadmill or the elliptical? When you're huffing and puff, same breath. The breath is there. The breath is present. So, what's separating this sacred breath from this everyday breath? Our awareness, our connection, bringing our awareness to meditation as sacred, bringing our awareness to whatever this breath during laundry, sacred nonetheless. The breath is present, the divine is present. So, how do we connect? Same thing with the telephone. My son is there doing whatever they're doing. They're there. And I decided to call my oldest son who's over there doing whatever he's doing. So I pick up my phone, I dial the number and connect. But the potential for that connection is present before I pick up the phone. The potential for us to connect to the sacred is there always. But what is the quote unquote awareness? What is the phone that we are using to connect? Laundry? Do, 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 do. Meditation? Do, 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 do. Laughter? Do, 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 do. Whatever it is, we have the means to connect. We have the number, the access all the time. All the time. And so that's what we're invited to step into, recognizing that just as the breath is ever present, just as the divine is ever present, sacred is always present, which means everything we do, in quotation marks, the sacred is present. Once again, that does not mean that every activity is done in the name or the energy of the sacred. Once again, we will talk about that momentarily. Eckhart Tolle offers us, we have forgotten what rocks, plants, and animals still know. We have forgotten how to be still, to be ourselves, to be where life is here and now. We have forgotten how to be here and now. To bring your attention to a stone, to a tree, or to an animal does not mean you think about it, but simply to be present, to perceive it, to hold it in your awareness. To bring presence to, because if we're thinking about it, then we're thinking tree, cloud, versus simply experiencing it, being present, not trying to figure it out. Simply be present here and now. So if you're present here and now, then wherever you are, whatever street you're on, whatever country you're in, wherever you are, is God there? If God is there, is the sacred there? Wherever you are you able to be present here and now? No matter what busy street in New York, or what busy street in DC, or what busy street is there such a thing as a busy street in Pittsburgh? Well, the Parkway, but nonetheless, is it possible to be here and now, wherever you are? Is that the practice that we're invited into? How do I bring my presence? How do I bring my awareness into the everyday activity of walking from my office to the parking garage, walking from my school to the coffee shop, walking from the metro station to the food truck? These everyday activities, can I bring my awareness to the here and now of the activity to such a degree that I connect to the sacred? sacred as mindset. The very nature of our brain, get this, this is neurological, biological programming based upon our genetic makeup. The very biology of the brain is made to label and categorize. It needs to be able to distinguish. That's why I'm able to differentiate between Tracy's shoe and my shoe, or take Tracy's hat and put it on my foot because I thought this was a shoe. I forgot. Shoe is labeled as that. That's why the brain does it, so it can easily differentiate between car keys versus spoon. Well, I'm trying to start the car, but I'm using a spoon. The brain labels and categorizes. But the thing is, we get lost in the labels. We don't flow with the flexibility. For example, do you remember when bad meant bad? Bad meant unpleasant. Bad meant unwanted. And then comes along Michael Jackson and turns bad into good. Or as some would say, when it's bad, oh, it's very good. Say what? Remember when, back in the day, deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. Remember back in the day when gay was festive and happy? Don ye now our gay apparel. And then gay became homosexual. And then, based upon the lingo of the young folks, gay became an insult that was synonymous with stupid or lame. That's so gay. We get lost in the labels versus what is the label used for? How am I mindfully connecting to the most effective way to convey and communicate what I desire to communicate? Because if we're going to talk about sacred as a mindset, then it's important to expand the container of our usage of these labels and categories so that we are expanding our awareness of what sacred can be. Which means we have to unlearn a good bit of unlearning, we have to unlearn a good bit of our previous learning, our previous indoctrination. Because language is flexible, right? So we breathe. We breathe and let go of what doesn't serve us so that we can relearn and relabel something. Now, that does not mean that we have to, quote unquote, take gay and go back to gay means festive, and doesn't mean that. But it's an awareness that, oh, language shifts, language moves, sacred shifts, sacred moves. Sacred isn't just Easter. The sacred isn't just Christmas. Is Halloween not sacred as well? It's sacred for many. Samhain is a sacred time of year. But for many others, it's not. Why? So we expand, we unlearn so that we may relearn and re-evaluate our beliefs, the labels, the categories, so that we can evolve, so that our mindset can shift. And with practice, we then take whatever necessary action steps towards creating a new mindset, a new paradigm, a new mental equivalent as it relates to that which is sacred. Because when the mindset shifts, then we are far more able to see that the meditation cushion isn't the only sacred space. The sofa cushion the car seat, the stool at the diner. All of these then become places to align with the divine, to mindfully taste and savor one's food. Is that not also meditation? Not to be eating while doom scrolling, but to wu wei. When eating, eat this and nothing more. Being here, being present now by shifting our mindset. And part of that means recognizing when we're in an outdated, ineffective mindset. Thich Nhat Hanh says each thought, each action in the sunlight of awareness becomes sacred. So it's the awareness that brings it, in the same way that if I'm just breathing, quote unquote, just breathing, I'm just breathing. But the moment my awareness shifts to the breath, there is a different energy, a different feel, a different alignment. And that can happen from the ground floor to the fifth floor in an elevator, simply being present to the breath. Not focused on where you're going or where you came from. Be here now. This and nothing more. Shifting our connection, shifting our mindset. Because when we do that, then where is no longer hallowed ground? Is your bathroom not hallowed ground? Is your toilet seat not a meditation cushion? What activity then becomes, now check this out, because in terms of connection, the two young children in the upper left picture, while they themselves are not quote unquote touching, are they not connected? Do they not share the same ground, the same air, the same atmosphere? Do they not share a connection by simply being in each other's presence? Are they not connected when one communicates to the other and the other receives and communicates back? Is that not connection? So even though they are not physically touching, are they not connected? Well, based on that, are we not all connected? Do we not all share the same gravitational field, the same air, the same sun and moon and stars? Do we not share the same humanity? So how are we disconnected really? Other than by choosing to believe mindset that we are disconnected, choosing to believe in a separate anthropomorphic God. It's a choice. Granted, it's based on an indoctrinated idea, but nonetheless, it is a choice that we can choose anew. Choose a new thought that says, I am connected to the sacred. My mindset is that of the sacred. Because then our actions are seen as sacred. The sacred is also those aspects of life that stir within us the energy of passion and activity: dancing, singing, art, skiing, surfing, skateboarding, laughing, bowling. This may outpicture in our interactions with others, as well as our care for certain marginalized communities, our dedication to a cause, our movement towards our own individual and collective transformation. How do we liberate ourselves in order to liberate others? As Fannie Lou Hamer said, As I liberate myself, I liberate you, because none of us are free until all of us are free. The sacred is saying yes when we are called to say yes. It is also saying no when we are called to say no. It is stepping out into the unknown and bringing our full, authentic self to the activities of life. This is a commitment to the flow of life, to the essence, and it becomes the fullness of our sacred activities. To breathe in, to breathe out, and to move in ways that speak to our connection with the all that is. Sacred as action is what it means to be a 21st century New Thought Good Samaritan. To do everything in a sacred manner means to do everything fully in the state of presence. Eckhart Tolle. Do you eat in a sacred manner? Do you have conversation in a sacred manner? Do you drive in a sacred manner? What does it mean to do so? So, no matter what we do in service of others, no matter what we do in our activities of life, how are we bringing that awareness to that activity, to that service, to that conversation, to that way of being our authentic selves? Dr. Holmes says the spirit is both an overdwelling and an indwelling presence. We are immersed in it, and it flows through us as our very life. Remix, are you ready? Yeah, Reverend Ray got a remix for this one. The spirit is both, it shouldn't even be both. The spirit is an all-dwelling presence. All-dwelling. We are immersed in it. It flows through us, flows in us, around us, and it is us. It is our very life. So it's not just both an overdwelling and indwelling, it is an all dwelling. It's all there is. So if we're immersed in it, it flows through us, it flows within us, it moves all about us, and it is us. Everything about our life is it. There is only one life, and that life is God. And that life is your life now. Breathe. So now when we think about the connection, the mindset, and the action, let's think about it in terms of, because once again, sacred is everywhere, spirit is everywhere. That means there is a spiritual blueprint, template, whatever we want to call it, that water is demonstrating to us as God. So it doesn't matter where the water is, how the water is showing up. When we look at this, we acknowledge it, we label it, we call it water very easily. And yet, how often do we pause to think about where all water shows up, our connection to water, water's connection to us, our mindset regarding water, the actions we take regarding water? Because think about it. How much of your body is water? How much of the Earth's surface is water? How much water is in the atmosphere? Now, having thought about that for a moment, what about the idea that water, but when we bring it down, we don't see the molecular structure of water as an everyday occurrence. We don't see the atomic structure as an everyday occurrence. But is it not there? Is it not present? So just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Just because we may not see the sacred doesn't mean it's not there. and that there are specialist scientists who are trained in how to see the molecular structure, the atomic structure. And some can even alter the molecular and atomic structure by bringing one oxygen atom into connection with two hydrogen atoms, and they create water. So, are you able to bring an atom of connection to two atoms of mindset and action and create sacred? Are you able to do that? Are you willing to do that? These things are all around us. And yet, because they are so small, we don't necessarily acknowledge or see them. Our awareness of them is not this awareness. Human hair in relation to a grain of sand, a grain of salt, a white blood cell, etc., a dust particle. We don't see them in this magnified state, especially not in relation to one another. And yet, they're there. So, to be able to do this, to be able to have the awareness of this, is to shift our mindset, to be present, to recognize that whatever's going on right now, I may not be able to see. I don't see oxygen, but I'm connected to it. And for as long as I'm connected to it, I am able to breathe. But if for whatever I'm in outer space and I'm no longer connected to oxygen, my ability to breathe is no longer present, and it affects the organism called my body, my life. So when we are in this space of our lived experiences, are we connected to love? We don't see love. Are we connected to unity? We don't see unity. We see the outpicturing of. We don't see equity and justice. We see how equity and justice play out in the world, in legislation, in policies, in behaviors. Are we able to see the grand scale of whatever this is and backtrack till we get to the smallest, quote unquote, the invisible aspects of what makes this thing sacred? How do I bring my awareness as connection, as mindset, as action to whatever this is, and thereby call it sacred? Because that which God is everywhere, always, ever present. Dr. Holmes says, we are compelled to think of spirit either as apart from us or within us. And as you see, there's going to be a remix. If apart from us, there is no way to find it. If within us, there is no escaping the divine fact. Unfoldment and not search is what we need. So we're not searching for it, we're unfolding. Okay, remix. Because remember before, last month, right? It was October. We were talking about the both and, or the tyranny of or, right? We remember these things? So we're not doing what did it say? We are compelled to think of spirit either as or with, okay? We're not doing the either or. We are invited to think of spirit not as being either apart from us or within us. Rather, it is all of us. It is all that is. Which means we can find it, experience it anywhere, everywhere, at any time, and every time we choose. Unfoldment and revelation of this truth is what we are invited into. spirit is all there is. It's everywhere present. So how do we unfold and bring revelation, bring our awareness to this so that it changes our connection, it changes our mindsets, it changes the mental equivalent, which means it changes our actions. And that's how it shows up in behaviors. It's how it shows up in manifesting a world that works for all through the unfoldment and the revelation that the sacred is all there is. It's everywhere present, in, through, and as who and what you are right now. So, how do you connect to that more actively? Wendell Berry says, there are no unsacred places. There are only sacred places and desecrated places. Breathe that in for a moment. Desecrated. That means this is a sacred place that someone does something and they desecrate it. They make it, quote unquote, unsacred by their actions. So, do we know what that means? Do we know what that looks like? Because we can reconsecrate a place, a people, an activity, a country. So let's explore. As I told you, we were going to talk about this, mentioned it earlier. So is everything sacred? I hear some of you saying yes. Everything is sacred. Are you sure? Is this sacred? Is this sacred? Is what they did sacred? Well, what about this? Is this a demonstration of the sacred? No, it is not. All of these are desecrations. Now, all of these happen based upon the free will of humanity, the free will of men and women to choose whatever it is they chose to choose based upon their mindset and their consciousness and their mental equivalence. When we know better, we do better. If they truly knew who and what they were, these heinous, atrocious acts would never have been committed. If we as a species knew who and what we were, how deeply connected we are to the all that is, the divine, such atrocities and desecrations would not happen. Now, the question then becomes, well, is the sacred there? Yes, because God is everywhere. So the sacred is found and experienced when we choose to heal. The sacred is the eradication of racism, the eradication of white supremacy and gun violence, etc. The sacred is found and experienced when we choose to help one another. It is not just in comforting those who grieve, but it is also preventing the reason that they are grieving in the first place. Prevent war so that no one need grieve the loss that occurs, the destruction that occurs during war. Prevent the reason that someone is grieving due to gun violence by changing gun legislation and changing how many people have a fetish with the gun. The sacred is found in how we choose to help. The sacred is found in and experienced in how we evolve to become a more humane, a more democratic, a more life affirming, compassionate, and enlightened global society. The sacred is found in how we liberate and emancipate and set one another free. This is how the sacred is revealed. It is revealed in our liberation, our emancipation, and our freedom. Freedom from dogmatic beliefs about sexism. It is revealed in our liberation from the consciousness of colonization. The sacred is revealed in how we reconsecrate school grounds where a desecration has been committed. We as Daryl Davis reconsecrates, as he collects the robes of Klansmen whom he has befriended, he collects them, he removes them from their former state and reconsecrates them as a demonstration of relationship, of healing, of atonement. That's how the sacred is revealed. The unfoldment of our divinity is no different from our unfoldment as the people that we are, with the interests that we have, exploring this thing called life as we do. Day by day, since the time of our birth, we have been growing, we have been learning, we have been relearning, shifting beliefs, and evolving to some degree as human beings. We may not have been evolving in certain levels of consciousness, but we evolved from one phone to another phone to another phone, or at least our awareness that the phone has changed. Even if we have not evolved to the point of being compassionate towards all, we have evolved in certain areas. But our invitation is to recognize this same process of our sacred divine selves, as well as to consciously participate in it, as we have done our entire lives with those other things that we have labeled as ordinary, regular, the everyday. To step fully into the space of your life as your divinely magnificent self. That's our invitation. Now, our declaration or affirmation, if it is in alignment with you, say it with me when I say it for our second go round. I'm going to say it first to get us primed. I open myself up to the adventure of recognizing the sacred in the unexpected. Together. I open myself up to the adventure of recognizing the sacred in the unexpected, thereby turning the unexpected into the expected, thereby seeing the sacred in my entire adventure. Anyway, breathe and open up. And so it is. This week's Thursday night questions, or your own personal journal questions. How does viewing everything, how does viewing everything as sacred influence our interactions with ourselves, our interactions with others, our interactions with the world around us? How does viewing everything as sacred influence you personally? Number 2, identify something that is desecrated and discuss how the sacred is present in the desecration. And it doesn't say this, but add it. And how can it be reconsecrated? In what areas of your life can you begin to see the sacred where previously you have not? What unexpected places can you find the sacred, reveal the sacred, experience the sacred? And then lastly, what does sacred as action mean to you? And how is it demonstrated in your life? Breathe. as we enter into that divine space, that sacred space that we refer to as prayer. Knowing in this moment, with this divine breath, the isness and allness of life itself, that is life itself, is breathing this breath as each and every one of us. That our connection to it is forever. It always was, it is now, and forever will be. That there is only one mind, that mind is God. Therefore, the mindset of God is the mindset of Ray. And that which is true about me is true about everyone watching. We already have the mindset of God. We now act from it, think from it, believe from it. And then, because of this alignment, our connection, because of this mindset, this new consciousness and mental equivalent, our actions shift. We now show up in the world completely different. We show up as the embodiment of the sacred. Our thoughts, sacred. Our words, sacred. Our emotions and feelings, sacred. And the ways in which we serve and act, sacred. Even if that action is simply making a cup of coffee, it is sacred. We breathe and open ourselves up. We breathe and allow ourselves to recognize ourselves as already being sacred. The law says yes. So together, recognizing that this is already what is, it's already answered prayer, we are already it is already us right here and right now, it's done, then we together declare and affirm this truth by saying, and so it is, and so it is, and so it is. Amen. Ashe, aho, so mote it be. Blessings to you all. Have an amazing remainder of your day. And if you're joining us over in the Zoom room, the sacred space of fellowship, then I will see you over in Zoom now.